if you wouldn't mind just kind of talking about how the whole Fox deal, Fox analyst thing came to fruition.
It started at Super Bowl time down here in Miami. I met with Brad, some of their other higher administration guys, and we were just talking briefly about calling games. I told him I had called games before. Also told him that I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. Always said that my time at ESPN never felt like work. So, they said that they would reach out, in March. And then, of course, COVID happened in March. So that got pushed back a little bit. And they had me actually do the interview via Zoom, which was interesting. I had to call a full game via Zoom. So fortunately, I had or have previous game experience at calling games. They really liked my interview. And, at that point, I was really torn between staying at ESPN and going with Fox. I think Fox sold me on the idea of being able to just talk ball for 3 hours, right? And they know how I'm a student of the game. I like watching film. I enjoy breaking down the X's and O's of a game. So they said, if you really like that and that's what you enjoy, then why don't you come over here and do it for 3 hours a day as opposed to, 10 minutes at a halftime of ESPN or, for maybe 20 or 30 minutes on one of the debate shows, Get Up or First Take. So, I thought about it, spoke with my family, and it felt like the right decision. I enjoy challenges. This is another challenge, and they welcomed me with open arms. So that's how Fox came about.
Hey, Jonathan, what was the process of calling a game on Zoom? Was that a weird situation for you to just kind of try to feel comfortable doing that?
It was definitely different because you don't get the energy from your partner. And so, you'll know when your partner wants to say something or your partner wants to interject or if your partner just mum on something and you can kind of keep going. So Kevin Burkhardt was my partner for the interview, and that was probably the hardest part. I wasn't able to kind of get the vibe or get any energy off him, read his body language. Fortunately, Kevin, he's awesome. I mean, you guys have heard him before. He's awesome at calling games. So he made it very, very easy for me. But I think that was probably the biggest difference. So I look forward to actually doing it live with somebody and then actually being able to interact in person when it's time to call games.
Are you able to tell us which game it was that you were calling?
It's a good question. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell. I don't know, but let's hold off on that one. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Was it something that you had any advanced knowledge of what game it was going to be, or did they just say?
Oh no! So that was probably the other interesting part. They did not tell me until the day before what game it was going to be. So I had let's call it 24 hours to watch the film, make sure I knew the players, get the injury reports of that time. And the biggest thing I did not do was actually watch that game. So what I did was just watch the previous film from both opponents prior to that. And that's, as I said, I'm a student of the game, so that's really all I need. I just needed time to watch a few games of the teams, of their previous opponents, understand the schemes, and then go from there.
Hey, John, is there a broadcast analyst in the industry that you've idolized or taken certain advice from through the years?
It's a good one. I really watched Kirk Herbstreit, and I watched him from my playing days at UM, and he used to come down for game day when Miami actually had a legitimate team. And it was always fun talking with him back then because he was you could tell he's passionate about college football. He's passionate about the sport and a true fan of the game and the players. So I watched his career, and then as he's evolved from not just game day but to calling games for the Saturday night games, I was in studio for those Saturday night games. So I always made it a point to watch him more about his delivery, more about his tempo, the way he's able to explain things very clearly, very smooth in his delivery and his approach. And then, you know, for the short time he's on camera for a halftime or a pregame, I like to watch his body language as well. So I think Kirk has done a tremendous job. I think he's really grown into that role as he's gotten older. I think he's gotten better. You could tell he's still wanting to learn the game and understand kind of this new age offense, new age defense in college sports. So I've watched him a lot. I really like his job. I really like him in his job.
Jonathan, what's it like kind of stepping into that, or what was it like stepping into that booth for the first time where you're like, you got to be on the ball and analyzing things that are happening in real time?
It honestly was like I was sitting with my linebacker buddies and we were watching film, you know, on a Tuesday getting ready for Wednesday practice, or, you know, Wednesday getting ready for Thursday practice. That's what it felt like. You're up there, you see what's going on, and I would, when we're watching film, I would say, all right, if it's with the linebackers, all right, guys, we're looking at X, Y, and Z. Hey, did you see that running back? Do you see his footwork? Do you see his steps? Do you see that O-lineman pull? And, you know, the receivers, et cetera. So watching a game now, it was pretty easy where I just felt like I was talking to my linebackers. And so when I first called the game, it was just like, hey, look, this is what I see. Based on what I'm seeing, this is probably what's going to happen, and this is what the OC is looking at. And you start looking at the matchups and the players, and you know, I always talk about respecting the phenoms, right? You can't disrespect the phenom players. So the first game I called, who was it? It was it was a smaller game, but there was a player there. It was a linebacker. He was actually really, really good. He got drafted in the second round. And I was talking about, just giving an example, I was talking about on live on air that they needed to account for him because he's a really, really good player. You can't just disrespect him and think he's not going to make all the tackles in the game. And so I just take that approach. When I'm calling a game, I look for the really good players. I like to focus on the good of the players and the tremendous athletes that they are, and then talk about the scheme and go.
Did it take like a quarter? Did it take a half? Did it take multiple games to kind of learn the dynamic between you and the play-by-play of, you know, letting the play breathe a little bit, when to talk, when to not talk, when to let them go for a little bit? How long of adjustment period was that?
Yeah, that was not much of an adjustment period because I asked all those questions you just said, Caroline, I asked ahead of time. So I was told, hey, look, in between plays is my real estate. During the play, that's their real estate. And, you know, you for home games where there's a crowd is really cheering, let that breathe for a little bit. Really, really good plays, crowds cheering, let that breathe. Touchdown, stuff like that. So, you know, that was kind of easy. And, you know, I always said, you know, it's their show. I'm just there along for the ride. I talk ball. So, you know, if they have something to say, they want to keep going, be my guest. You know, we're here for 3 hours. So I don't have to always feel the need to speak and you know, talk about every little thing that happens. Sometimes you just let it go.
Has being like in-game, in-booth analyst has that always been something you wanted to do? Or when did this kind of start for you?
It was, to answer the first part, no, it wasn't always something I wanted to do. Not in a bad way. It was I just never thought about it. When it came about was my first game I called was UM versus UNC college game. It was a Thursday night game. And I remember I watched all the film and all that stuff. And then I was calling the game. And before I knew it, it was already halftime. And I was like, damn, you know, it only felt like 10 minutes. I was like, this is kind of fun. I like it. And then, you know, the game ends. And after the game, I was just sitting there, and my agent asked me, and then my bosses back at ESPN had asked me, you know, how'd you like it? And I really sat and thought about it, and I was like, you know, that was a lot of fun. It was really enjoyable, and it was because I got to finally speak at length about all the stuff that I see on film, and then you see it come to fruition in the game, and then be able to explain it. And as I said, it's like talking to my buddies, right? I was talking to my buddy linebackers for 3 hours about the game. So, I like that. I liked it a lot, and that's probably the first time where I really sat there and said, if there is an opportunity down the road for calling games, I would definitely entertain it.
As a linebacker student of the game, when you watch Mario Davis, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
Well, first, Mario's size. He's a big boy, man. He's 6'3", about 240. Probably carries himself at about 250 and then comes down to 240 when he plays. His size and speed are especially in this age, this era of football where it's like speed, smaller players and speed. He stands out with his size and his range, his ability to cover ground. Very, very, very smart player. I don't think he gets enough credit for being as smart as he is as a player. And frankly, I wish and hope that Dennis Allen and Sean give him a little more rope, right, to really have reign over that defense and start to check in and out of defenses, especially when he sees stuff. Because when I watch him, I can tell instinctually he knows what's happening. And sometimes he's allowed to check out, sometimes he's not. But his ability, man, his size and speed and his smarts for the game, they really stand out. You can tell he's a very smart player.
How much? I know it hasn't been that long, but how much different is the game now from when you played? You mentioned the differences in the eras, and it seems like it's evolving pretty quickly.
It really is. When I first got into the league back in 2004, you still had fullbacks. You had the brawly tight ends, the blocking tight ends. Teams thought nothing of it to go with 2 tight ends, fullback, running back in the game, and then try to beat your head in the run game, right? So that was kind of and then my knock getting drafted was that I was too small. So that was kind of the era that I got drafted in, and then I slowly started to see the bigger brawly linebackers getting phased out. You start to see smaller, more rangy linebackers, and it was because on the flip side, you had the running backs now that were smaller, quicker, shifty running backs. So, once it started to evolve, I don't think it's changed much except that there is a premium on speed. Before there wasn't as much of a premium on speed except for a few teams. And I think now all the teams, OCs, they want, and even on the defensive side, they value speed so much that they're willing to take smaller guys, take a safety, shift them down to linebacker just so that they can have the speed at that position.
Has there been any, I don't know if challenge is the right word, but adjustment on how you present things? Because obviously the role of a color analyst is to articulate the game in a way that fans can understand, but obviously your terminology is so much different than maybe what the regular fan can understand. So has there been any adjustment of kind of holding yourself back a little bit and explaining things the way that fans can understand?
Yeah, there's a big adjustment because I have to remember at the end of the day, no matter how much I know and I try to show everyone how much I know about the game, the fans don't care. That's just the truth. Like the fans, they want to know what's going on in the game, explain it to them as simply as possible, and then, let them enjoy the game. They don't want to hear about me break down every single play and, the little nuances. Like they don't care. They're fans, right? And, I equate it to when I watch a basketball game, I don't want to watch a basketball game and then someone tell me all the little things that are going on. Like if a guy scores 40, he scores 40. He's a pretty good player to me. I don't really care what you say. So, I try to make sure that, I don't bog down the fans with too much of the technical stuff. Keep it entertaining, keep it fun, let them enjoy the game.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Where do you think this team talent-wise ranks with some of the great Saints teams you were on?
Ooh, they are up there. If you go position by position, I would have our 2011 team up there. Probably, I think our 11 team was offensively and defensively was tops. I think which team was it? Was it last? No, the year before, the Saints team that went to the NFC Championship. They were pretty talented. I think they were a little light at the D line, but they were still really, really good. and when I say D-line, really D-tackle position. But really, really good, man. The running backs offensively, I think they were probably a receiver short. We had at that time Meacham, Devery Henderson, Lance Moore, Colston, Shockey. No, we didn't have Shockey. We had Jimmy Graham. So we had more weapons offensively. They got Kamara and Ingram at that time. They were a pretty damn good duo. We had Pierre Thomas at that time. So I'd still put us our 11 team up there, and then probably I think 17 or 18, whichever team that was, that went to the NFC Championship. I put them at 2, and then we could argue about 3, 4, 5 later on.
Jonathan, when you look at this defense now, DeMario has been in it for 3 years. It'll be the 3rd year with him. What more can this defense do to, try to become a top 5 consistent defense now that they've been together for now? It'll be their 3rd year.
Turnovers. They got to create more turnovers. They're really good, really stout. Last year, they did not take the ball away at an alarming rate. And I know Dennis preaches it because he preached it back when I was playing. So I think that would be, if there's a knock on the defense right now, gotta create turnovers. If they created, just an extra turnover a game, I know it sounds easy, but it's not. Imagine putting Drew Brees in that offense, giving them an extra possession. That's the way you just literally just like put a game away. You turn the ball over, let Drew and them score real quick, and then now it's easily a 17-point lead or a 14-point lead, and the games are done. So turnovers would be the thing.
Do you have like a go-to favorite or funny Sean Payton story that you tell that kind of, I don't know, is the thing you tell people when people ask you about him?
Sean Payton story?
Yeah.
I guess you guys must have heard of how Sean Payton turns Dr. What is that? Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, is that what it is? That's the thing where he's like cool, calm, and collected all during the week, and then he turns into this like big badass on Sunday, and he's trying to fight everyone, and he's like Mr. Tough Guy. I remember in 2008 I had first gotten there, and I had not seen this other side of Sean on a Sunday until we got a defensive stop, scored a touchdown. It was against Atlanta at home. And, he comes over like I said, big badass. And he's like, I want another turnover. Give me the ball back. Give me the ball back. I was like, who is this guy? Like, who is this? Like, what's going on? So we go out there. We actually got another turnover. And, he has that, like, big strut when he walks around. And, he got that little face going. So, I go over there and I push him. I'm like, yeah, what's up now? And he looks at me. And, he was first surprised, and he got back into his mode like, yeah, I told you, give me the ball back. So that was the first time I ever dealt with the other Sean. I call him the other Sean, Mr. Tough Guy. But, having him as a coach like that, it was awesome because you always want someone with a chip on their shoulder, and he's passionate about the game.
We were talking to Roman after his Hall of Fame announcement the other day about his kids knowing him more as a analyst than as a football player. Do you think that's kind of weird to think about, your kids knowing you more as an analyst than a player?
Yeah, that sucks. It's true, but it sucks. That's I have a 10-year-old. She doesn't remember anything of when I played. All she remembers is like doing touchdown dances and stuff. I was like, do you even remember like my number? She was like, I think you were 51, right, Daddy? And I was like, I showed her some games when I played at UM, and she looked and she was like, that's you? I was like, yeah. She was like, oh, okay, can we change it? And I was like, damn, I mean, Jesus Christ, you don't even care? So, yeah, she doesn't remember. It definitely sucks. I wish that, this age, she would have seen me play, but it's all good.
Jonathan, I got one more question about, you made the comparisons of the 2011 teams, and we don't know what the 2019 or 2020 offense is going to look like. But when you add Emmanuel Sanders into the fold, could they fall into that 2011 offense?
Yeah, man. Emmanuel Sanders, he's good. He is good. Watching him, I watched him probably 4 times last year with San Fran. And then I watched them actually just because I wanted to see the matchups before they played the Saints. And I like him, man. He is really, really good. He is. I would put him a notch above Lance Moore, right? When you think about like a possession receiver, but he's a little more shifty and got a little more burst and a little size to him. Probably maybe the same size, but I think he's tremendous. He's really, really good.
What do you think would be the hardest part for Zach Vaughn playing on the edge to maybe moving off the ball? Like, what would be the hardest part about that transition?
From on the ball to off the ball?
Yeah, he's on the edge and they want to play him in space a little more.
Yeah, his issue will be angles. And so not to get too technical, but when you're on the ball, everything is kind of like flat down the line, right? You kind of just make sure you maintain the wall as everything goes away from you, or if something comes at you, you just stay right there and hold your ground. When you're off the ball, your angles are a little different. You got to kind of get downhill more to be able to, quote unquote, set the wall or whatever you need to get done, as opposed to just going flat. So that would probably be it. The way he has to enter into plays to make tackles or to, kind of set the wall and things of that nature. Once he gets used to that, it'll be fine.
Hey, Jonathan, just have you thought about what it would have been like for you as a player going through this pandemic? Like how would you kind of approach going into training camp where it's still kind of up in the air, uncertain?
Yeah, I would have had to buy some weight at home, and because for me, everyone's body is different. My body, I would get smaller, if I didn't lift weights, and I needed that size or that muscle. So I would have had to really get my whole little gym set up in my home, and then frankly, I would have to figure out how to get my cardio in, and that's probably the hardest part of the players getting into football shape. And if you can't get into football shape, I mean, you really have no chance. So, I would have had to have gone with Dan as the strength training coach, Dan Dalrymple. I would have had to get with him to really map out a cardio plan, knowing that I'm going to obviously stay in shape as far as my muscle. I would have kept my muscle up, my muscle mass up, but the cardio part would have been hard. So, that's one thing I really, really worry about for the players, because you get a lot of injuries when you're out of shape. And it's not just from being out of shape and, you're tired. It's you pull a muscle, you're putting strain on your muscles, and it's not conditioned for the stress that you're putting it under. So then you start to pull hammies, you pull your quad, these are things that happen. And then when you get tired, you get lazy in your technique. So now you're talking about full contact, and if someone is tired and, they enter a play wrong, God forbid, they hurt their shoulder, hurt their neck, things like that. I get very, very concerned about it, knowing that not all the players have had the discipline to really keep themselves in some sort of shape.
And as far as like being like coming back to a facility and everything, like, do you think you would have felt personally comfortable doing that? Just knowing that the virus is still a thing right now.
Yeah, I would have been fine if, the NFL says, I shouldn't say the NFL says it's fine, but the NFL has created a plan to make it, let's call it workable, right? To make it workable. And, I'll be fine with that. I would anticipate that everyone is going to be cautious and not only practice social distancing when we can, assuming that we're playing and practicing, but, also, wearing the mask and then being mindful of their surroundings outside of the office or outside of the practice field. So, I think that, it's not like dealing with 18-year-old kids. You're dealing with adults that have kids, and, this is their livelihood. So I would imagine that everyone's going to take it seriously. So if I go back, I would anticipate everyone is going to be as serious as I am about our health and our safety.
They had 51 sacks last season, and that's with a banged-up Sheldon, banged-up Marcus Davenport. I know you spent a lot of your career. putting the defensive line into their positions at time. How good can Cam be in that rest of the defensive line if they're fully healthy?
It would be the first time in a long time I can recall. Matter of fact, I don't think there ever was a time when I played with the Saints that, oh, no, there was one year where you could say that the strength of the defense is the D-line. And when you have that, I'm a big believer championships are won in the trenches. So if you have a legitimate defensive line, like the Saints could have potentially, that is the defensive line is the ones that get you out of a bad defense, right? With a sack or a tackle for loss or things like that, or getting pressures. So if the strength of the defense is the defensive line, and then you still have guys like Lattimore and Demario Davis, et cetera, on the back end, I mean, that's a recipe for, a long run in the playoffs, hopefully a Super Bowl.
One more, if you don't mind. Just with all the uncertainty with the pandemic and whatnot, who knows what the stadiums are going to look like. Does that cross your mind, as you're preparing to get ready to call this season?
Cross my mind in what sense? As in, I need to be worried?
Or no, more so that, you could be in a stadium that's half empty, or fully empty, we won't have the crowd reactions and, just a situation you're maybe not used to.
Yeah, I thought about it a little bit, and candidly speaking, all my thoughts have been selfish from the perspective of, well, if they're not here, that means they got to watch me on TV. So I kind of looked at it that way, and I just left it at that, and kind of like, all right, well, I'd rather have the crowd and, the energy of the game, but hey, look, it's not too bad. They're all going to watch them on TV now. So,
as a player, can you pick up a lot of stuff the offense is saying and maybe crack their code a little bit if there is no noise at all?
Oh, hell yeah. I would love this. This would be it's like practice against Drew Brees for 17 weeks. This would be so awesome if there are no fans in the stadium and I can just sit there and listen to everything that the quarterback says the whole time. For the young quarterbacks, it's too easy because they can't get in and out of stuff. For the older quarterbacks, they might mess with you a little bit, but I'll just stand there and listen. I literally just do like this. Like, okay, all right, cool. Thank you. Got it.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jonathan.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.